Okay, so before we start the wiring, fed up standing up. Whenever you have a hospital chair, commode looking thing knocking about the workshop and an old seat, it's time to be comfortable. So I'm going to weld it on, just temporarily tack weld it on. See where I've marked there where I need to buff back the bare steel. Tack weld it on, and it's height adjustable, so I can get a bit more comfortable. The things you have to do.
Stolen identity. You know I see through anything. I'm a one-man army with a bitter sting. You give me no reasons. I'm broken.
Okay, I think you'll agree this is a much more comfortable working position to be at, considering I'm going to be spending most of the next couple of weeks at this flipping workbench. Seat is on. Wouldn't win weld of the century, but it's not going to fall off, hopefully, or else if it does, it'll make for a very entertaining part of the video. The next stage is going to be to work out the myriad of wires that need to go into this car. I'm going to swap you across to the screen recording of this, hopefully, if I can get it to work, and you should hopefully see the next bit on that. So the next bit of this is to show you the plan for the job ahead. This bit here is the old loom. Hope you can still see me on the GoPro. This is the old loom, so at least I have something to follow. This is the wiring diagram and pinout for the standard ECU, for the standard coil pack rather. But as I am going for the upgraded coil-on plug setup, I have got this to follow. So it's pretty simple whenever you get down to it. This is the 36 amp pin plug here, this big bit in the middle, and all the numbers are obviously the pin number that each pin is relative to. It's all controlled by 3 relays down at the bottom left down here. So it's pretty simple to follow. All 3 relays need a battery 12 volt. They need an ignition switch 12 volt. They need an earth, and they need switched off the ECU basically as well to control everything. So the main bit that I was trying to work out before I just dived in and got stuck in really is I need to know which wire's which. Thankfully the Emerald kit that comes, you buy a pre-terminated loom. Well, rather, some of the wires are terminated, some of them aren't. That comes with, wherever it's at, that comes with, where is it? This spreadsheet, and it sort of tells me what each pin is at and what color it is. So I have deciphered this myriad of colors and this document, and I wouldn't bore you with it, but I have put it into a spreadsheet so I know what every pin of the ECU does. So from here I know ECU pin 1 is a yellow and black wire. Its function is the signal wire for injector 5. Over here, if I go to injector 5, I know that it's pin 1, it's yellow and black. It needs 12 volts for one of the other pins on the injector, and there's only 2 wires to a plug. So all the injectors are going to be the same, only they're going to have a different pin going into the ECU. The coil packs, however, they have 4 plugs going into the plug on top of the coil pack. They need 12 volt from the ECU. Sorry, 12 volt from the fuse box or spliced relay. They also need a chassis ground. And if I can go back to my drawing wherever it's at, for the coil pack, you can see that on the coil pack plug, which are here, there are pins 1 to 4. I need to actually see which pin is which, or if it's numbered anywhere, to see, is it 1, 2, 3, 4 this way, or 1, 2, 3, 4 this way, whichever, but I would presume it's 1, 2, 3, 4 this way. If that's the case, pin 1 is coming from the ignition relay over here, which is the main ignition live relay. It's going to be coming into a power splice across. It's going to feed every injector, and it's going to feed every coil pack. Pin 2 is going to be the ECU power ground, so it's going to be the ECU sensor ground from that. Then pin 3 on each coil pack is the trigger wire into the ECU that tells it when to fire, and pin 4 needs earthed to the engine head or the block, basically. So yeah, that's those. Another one then, I've went ahead and bought because I have the EV6 plugs on my new 550 injectors. The standard mini junior timer pin things that come for the standard injectors weren't going to fit. I did buy adapters, but they're no use to man their beast whenever they're underneath that fuel rail, because everything's just too tall. So next part of the plan is these. I've got 6 of these injector plugs to go on. I'll take a bit of a closer look here. I think the GoPro's about to die, so I'll change the battery and we'll reconvene. So the next stage really for me is going to be to get all of the wires pinned into the plug, I think. I'm going to need to cross-reference between the spreadsheet, get the wire color, see what pin it needs to go into the ECU, and pin it in basically. That way then at least I'll be able to start routing them where I need them to go on the engine before I can split them out into their own separate looms. I also have, if I can find it, there we go, too many bags of stuff lying about. I also have these, as if it wasn't difficult enough, to try and get sussed what pin goes where. So on here I've drawn out what's going into each. I have 2 multi-plugs to go in. I'm going to try and keep one for the injectors, one for the coil packs, and then split. This one here is mainly going to be ground, and this one here is going to be signal and power for all the sensors. Trying to label what's what basically, so that I know. I'm just trying to basically be as anal as I can about this to try and make sure I don't make any mistakes, because I don't fancy having to fault find a brand new loom. So yes, the next bit probably will be me working away. A mixture of the screen, mixture of pinning cables, a mixture of who knows what. Thanks.
To pieces, there's no one can erase. Stuck inside
Okay, so I have all the pins in the plug on the ECU now, where it needs to be. I have the spreadsheet, so I know what colour's what, so it shouldn't be too difficult now to route the wires without any covering or plugs on them into the rough location and cable tie or tape them into their own wee mini looms, so that I can work out what sheathing, what heat shrink connectors go where. First thing I want to do really is to get these adapters that I bought off the injectors, because I'm not using the mini timer plug anymore. I'm using the V6 proper plug, so I need to work out how the flip they come off. Actually, looks like they might be pretty simple to be fair. Yep, pretty simple. On a side note, if anybody needs to convert a V6 to EV1, drop me a message. These are going cheap. I think the next bit here, before I transfer this over onto the engine, is to cut all these cable ties, to get the cables all nice and stretched out where they need to be. And there's a couple of cables that I'm not using, so I'll strip them out of the loom as well at this stage. I haven't pinned them in yet. All 3 meters of glorious unterminated spaghetti. This all now, I need to start systematically and route these to where they need to be. It's going to be fun. Okay, so the next stage is I've set myself up sort of like a mini bulkhead here. Obviously it's sitting quite far back from the engine, but we'll work that out later. The first step that I want to do is I want to separate these wires into the ones that are staying inside the car and the ones that are going outside the car. There's no point in me putting a whole pile of wires into the loom that don't need to go out through the bulkhead, don't need to go into the bulkhead connectors. Everything that goes out through the left hand side of this bar is going to go through the multi-plugs in the just out through the bulkhead. The reason I'm putting multi-plugs in is so that the engine's easily removable. In the past, I've had to take the rocker cover, or not the rocker cover, the plenum, and a whole pile of stuff off just to get the loom off, the injectors and all that carry on. Everything runs up the valley in the V in the way I'm wiring it, so everything off the front of the engine had to come off to get the engine out of the car. This way, I would like it that it's easy for maintenance, that if I need to, I can drop the engine out with 2 plugs and a couple of pipes. So that's the whole aim behind this. Next stage is going to be to, as I said, just see what the flip's going where in this spaghetti bunch. And we'll go from there.
Could I be dead? Or is it something I have
Okay, so it's now at the stage where I need to direct where the wires are going on the engine. I have set up a very crude bulkhead, maybe as you call it. Not quite the bulkhead, but these are all the wires that need to stay inside the car. This is obviously the 36 pin connector. All the wires that need to go outside are in this bunch. Now I need to start splitting them out where roughly need to go in the engine. I know that the air temperature sensor goes round about here somewhere underneath the plenum, so it'll be left in a wee coil up in like that. So for now, I'm going to branch him down that road. I'm not going to put this multi-plug in just yet. I'm going to get them all sitting nicely and then cut the wires and put them in that way. I don't want to cut this short because I want to be able to relocate the ECU inside the car if I ever need to. I can coil it up neatly and put it in behind the fuse box or in behind the glove box out of the road. The reason I have kept it so long there, I'm sort of starting with the longest sensor, which is the crankshaft sensor. As long as it's long enough to reach down, which it is, somewhere down to the crankshaft sensor. Obviously that's not the route it's going to take, it'll go neater than that. But as long as it's long enough, which it's more than long enough, I'm happy. I can trim these engine wires back to suit now. I probably could pull the whole lot back a bit more, but it's long enough. So the next stage is going to be to separate these out roughly into their own wee sub-looms. I'm going to have basically a left hand and a right hand loom, I believe, is the best way. So right injector, well, I might have an injector loom and a coil pack loom. I haven't quite decided all this yet. I can work that out after I've separated the wires into what to do. So I'll separate out the coil packs, out the injectors. Thankfully Emerald, whenever they did it, they're very kind and they have coiled the wires up. So this is the coolant temperature sensor and it's coiled up blue and black. So I know instantly what that is. So that needs to go onto that plug there. The crank sensor is obviously this shielded wire. The red, green and black I think is the crank, or not the crank, the throttle position sensor, which again sits somewhere about here. So he can stay out the front. This purple, black and red I think is the map sensor. I'll just check. Yeah, map sensor, purple, black and red. So the only real thing now to do is to separate out what's coil packs, what's injectors, and there's not really much else on this engine. Crankshaft sensor, as I said, is shielded. All these other ones here are for individual sensors. So in theory, if I throw these over this road, these here, I should be left with wires to do for the, let's see how right I am, it should be 12 in theory. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16. What have I got missing here? It'll become apparent anyway whenever I go to do it. Who knows?
Trapped inside a fake reality.
Okay, so after a bit more work on the wiring, I have, where I left up last I think was putting this onto the wee bulkhead and sorting out what went inside and outside. So currently these all go inside. They are all the stuff that needs to be wired into fuse boxes and sensors and all that carry on. This also I have left now that I've wired 2 power, that's better to show it this end probably, 2 power here for the injectors. I'm going to split them out into 3 each. 2 power here and a ground for the coil packs. Again, they'll all be split out, spliced out for each individual. I have routed the wires where they need to go, roughly for each implement, I'll call it. So for instance, I now know that the blue and yellow is coil pack 6. On a Cosworth it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have took the spreadsheet, took the diagrams, deciphered it, and routed every wire to where it needs to go. Injectors and stuff as well, they're all now routed out where they need to go. So again, it's a bit different because they're pointing opposite ways, but this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all routed out where they need to go. Haven't done these just yet. That's the next stage. They will probably run up the valley in there and a separate wee subloom. All the sensors going run the injectors in their own wee bit. The 2 sides of the coil packs in their own wee bit. Sorry, the camera was pointed away there, but anyway, the injectors are going to go in their own subloom, just drop off where they are. The coil packs are going to split into the 2 wee looms. This will probably run up in an individual loom, come out and around the front here somewhere. I'll need to set the plenum on before I obviously finalise routes for that. But yeah, I think that's most of the stuff that needs to run to the engine. I went through my wee spreadsheet meticulously with the multi-plugs. So the plan for cutting the multi-plugs is I will probably tape both of these like I have done here, probably there and a little bit there. Cut these in the middle and then I'll be able to route them into the 2 coil packs or multi-plugs whenever I need to. Might wait till it's in the car. Well, I'll see. I need to see a measurement of where I want these. I don't want them just hanging down the back of the engine. I would like these mounted somewhere in a nice wee bracket, the 2 multi-plugs. So I'll work that out at a later date. Yeah, I think that might be enough wiring for one episode. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far. If you have made it this far, well done. It's been a bit of a boring one. But keep tuned or stay tuned for the next one, and yeah, bye.